Here we go. We're in. Okay.
Okay, Mazel Bracha Tzlacha,
Amen.
everybody.
Mazel bracha
Bracha.
tzlacha.
Got a bracha.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Fascinating. Okay, so welcome to, this is called Beyond the Book podcast, and where I like to explore authors. I like to explore their lives, what they've done, and I think it gives people the opportunity to connect to the author, and then their book is the next logical step, and that's where we go. And then the book means something more because we've now connected to this person as a person. So that's the idea here of the podcast, Beyond the Book, and it's yours. I invite you. It's open. I'm going to ask questions. I'll nudge it along, but I really want you to tell us and let us connect. Let us see. Let us get involved. So just to start off simply, can you tell us a little bit just about where you're from and how that brought you here? Where are you today and what are you doing? So where did you come from? Where did you come from? Where are you going?
Wow. Okay. So I'll start off, if it's okay. I think I know this story fairly well. We'll find out, right? So where did we come from? We came from a different world, really, which is the subject. I have now had, my fifth book was published about a year ago by Mosaic Press. The first book, which is called From Central Park to Sinai, How I Found My Jewish Soul, is the autobiography, and it tells the fascinating, I say that, I mean, advisedly, it is a fascinating story. It's a story we've literally told probably 1,000 times without exaggeration, and it's a story that I think for us and for, I think for the listeners, it never gets old. It's amazing. It's a story that began in New York City, and it was really a different world. The world I grew up in was a kind of almost Victorian world in many ways. It was a privileged world. I grew up on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which is about 100 light years from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And it was a world of assimilated German, affluent, assimilated German Jews, world of Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue. And we grew up in a family that had really, when you talk about American assimilation, this was it. We celebrated all the American holidays. December 25th was the biggest day of the year for us. We didn't know what Rosh Hashanah was. We didn't know what Yom Kippur was. We didn't know what Pesach was. We didn't even know what Hanukkah was. We had a tree in our house on December 25th. We had stockings on Santa Claus. Really, it was. And that was the world that we grew up in. I want to tell you that amazing parents, but assimilation is powerful. And that's the catastrophe of what happened in America. My mother's maiden name was Salant. My grandfather told me when I was a little boy we came from a famous rabbi named Israel Salanter. And I, of course, was not interested in asking any further questions at the time, which I regret very much to this day, but I didn't. And my mother's name was Rothschild. And that tells you in a nutshell a lot about our family, because my mother was a Salanter without knowing what it meant, and my father was a Rothschild. And
that's the S. Correct.
That S is Salant. My name is Roy Salant Neuberger.
Or Yisrael.
And
then it would be Yisrael Salant.
Yisroel?
Yisrael Salanter.
Salanter, right.
Yisrael. That's why I was named Yisrael.
Fascinating.
31 years later, I got a Hebrew name. It took 31 years till I had a bris in Eretz Yisrael. That's toward the end of the story. So I grew
It's not
up.
the end, it's the beginning in a lot of ways.
That's right. It is the beginning. Whatever.
We can start from anywhere.
Yeah, I can start from anywhere and go in any direction. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, I grew up in this privileged home, in many ways a beautiful home. Very fine parents, very straight, honest, ehrlich people, and we did not know one thing about Yiddishkeit. So ostensibly, this should be the American dream paradise. But for me, from childhood, it was the American nightmare. And I'm not exaggerating. I did not have a moment's peace. I obviously inherited my mother's Salanter neshama, and I couldn't stand it. I always, it's amazing.
What do you think the neshama is? What do you think the midah of the salanters is in you?
I was allergic to the absence of Hashem. I was allergic to the absence of Hashem. I didn't know who Hashem was. I didn't know what the word Torah was. I didn't know there's a word called Torah. But I always say it's amazing. When I was a little kid, maybe, and this is really little, and I thought there's something wrong with me. I mean, intrinsically wrong with me. And I went through every derech I could think of to get out of it. I knew something was just terribly wrong. I felt when I was a little kid that there was no reason to be afraid. I was afraid every second. And I felt there's something inside me which is like thwarting everything I want to do. And it controls me. I'm not able to control myself. I'm like the victim of something. Right now, I say it has a name. It's called the Yetzer Hara. But then I never heard of the Yetzer Hara. But I always say, you think the Yetzer Hara is a theory? When I was a kid and I never heard this word in my life, I saw the Yetzer Hara in front of me. And it was like I was a slave. I felt like an emotional slave. And sometimes I felt as if I was just losing my sanity. I'm not exaggerating. And my wife keeps having to tell me, Ad Hayom Hazeh, till this very day, that I'm normal. Ask. I'm not exaggerating. It's true. Because it doesn't go away so fast. So
you're not crazy. You're just intense.
See that?
Now I see why you bring her.
Are you kidding? Give us a bracha. We should stick together ad Mashiach and beyond. Anyway, Bezos Hashem. Bezos Hashem.
And all of us together
Amen.
should see it.
With koyach and gesund. And we should see, Mashiach's just around the corner. It's got to be. I read this book by Roy Neuberger. It says so. Anyway, that's how it started. And I started to look. And I looked, and the last thing I wanted to do was be Jewish. I mean, you're so embarrassed because that's how we were, embarrassed. Oh, Jews. Yeah. And then, 31 years later, after going through everything you can imagine, every lifestyle you can imagine, and some you can't, I never got into drugs, by the way, Baruch Hashem. I just knew you got to stay away from it, Baruch Hashem. But okay, I'm not going to go into too much detail because this could last itself for 3 hours, literally. But by the age of 31, we met in high school. I was 16, my wife was 15. Everything is a story. Everything is a 3-hour story, but you don't have like 300 hours.
All the time in the world.
Okay.
4 hours on the recording, that's all.
We may be able to do a little. Anyway, so so we then at the age of 15 or 16, the journey was together, but we're still looking. And then by the age of about 30, we went through like there's nothing left, literally, we didn't do. We exhausted every derech. And that, at that exact moment, not a joke, we met Rebbetzin Esther Young Rice in Newburgh, New York. I say Hashem timed it to the millisecond, because at that moment we had gone through every single thing there was, and either we're going to have like the bottom's going to open up and we're going to get swallowed up in the Chas Shalom, in the abyss, or something is going to come. And at that moment we met Rebbetzin Young Rice and we heard her speak, and all of a sudden the whole world of Torah opened up in front of us, and our entire life changed.
May I just say a few words?
I don't know.
Add a
You
little
know
bit
this
to
story or what? I mean, you're a part of this
I read
deal?
from Central Park to
Oh, you
Sunday.
read the book. So she's qualified. Okay.
I lived it, Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
So I just want to say that we both felt the same way, that there's something missing, that there must be a higher meaning and purpose in life. There has to be more than materialism. Materialism, you're never satisfied. You get this thing and the next thing, and you still want the thing after that. And we knew there had to be a higher meaning and purpose, and that's why we looked into all these ways of life that we thought might give us meaning, working for different causes, and like the peace movement during the Vietnam War, or conservation to keep the world pure and clean, and civil rights movement, all these different things. We were very idealistic, but we never ever met anyone who believed in God. We had mostly Jewish friends, and those were the circles we grew up in. So we never heard of a Shomer Shabbos Jew. We didn't know what that was until finally, after studying and looking for years, we in college studied Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, looking for the truth, and thank God our Jewish souls, our neshamas told us, no, that's not it. And finally, since nothing else seemed right, we looked into our background, our Judaism, and that's when we heard Rebbetzin Esther Young Rice speak, and we were both so moved that night.
See, it's interesting. We took this journey together, but I have a different approach from my wife. We're different people. Opposites attract, and for some reason she seems to find an attraction in me. I don't know why. Try to Baruch Hashem, but
you're very, very interesting.
Could be.
And she's still saying that.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. So my wife says we knew there had to be a higher meaning and purpose in life. And that's true. And that was because my wife is a normal person, and that's what motivated her. For me, it was emotional survival. I didn't have any theories so much. I needed to survive. I was like free falling through space emotionally. I needed something I needed a life preserver, and I needed Hashem, even though I denied that for decades. But that's the difference in our approach. But with Baruch Hashem, the story is.
But we always felt the same way all along the way in our search, looking and casting this off and that off. It's not it. And then when we finally heard about Torah, and that Rebbetzin Young Rice said all our souls were at Har Sinai when God gave us the Torah, and we taught the world there's a God, and we taught morality to the world, and that we have a way of life, a Torah to study and live by day and night. We were both crying, and we both felt the same way, and all along the way, thank God, we felt the same way, and we followed the path together. They can't take that for granted. And with a married couple, one could say yes and the other could say no, and then the big trouble.
We've seen it.
Right. I wanted to mention this sort of off the path of the direction of where you were headed, but we'll get back to that. I think that when, Rebbetzin Neuberger, Mrs. Neuberger, however you like to be called, but
Mrs.
when Mrs. Neuberger offered, she said, "Oh, a podcast, maybe I should come." I remembered when you guys were here in our shul, and I just remember that seeing you do this together, and seeing that you've you started the journey together, you continued the journey together, you raised family together, and you've done all this together, and you're still together, you're still going on podcasts together. That's an amazing thing. But I think that in terms of relationship goals as well, when we see you, we see that it's possible to be, and I think it's important to say this, but it's possible to be crazy about each other and just crazy, and even after all these journeys. And what you're saying,
Thank God.
even early on, it sometimes doesn't happen, but
We've been married 58 years, Leah and Hara, and it's with Torah, everything is always exciting and interesting and wonderful, and reaching out to other people, it keeps it fresh, and Baruch Hashem.
I think it's an important thing. Maybe if you have a message or a lesson or something that you've taken, just it's an important I think it's an important avenue to explore.
Rebbetzin Young Rice always used to say, it's not, that a couple should be looking at each other's eyes, with these bells ringing and everything. They should both be looking in the same direction. Have a goal in life and accomplish together this goal and find out your unique path to achieve what Hashem put you in this world together to do. And if you can do it together, that's really the way it's supposed to be. And I want you to know, when we go to speak on especially college campuses, the kids are like, wow, like they don't even know like we never saw a husband and wife who talked to each other before.
They really like each other.
Not a joke. And they write in their journals, we want to have a marriage like that. I mean, Bli Ein Hara, but it's inspiring.
It's funny because it might not even be the main message of what you're trying to do, but what a powerful message. I feel like in Jewish outreach, that's such an important thing when you bring them to your home. Yes, you get to say your vort and you get to show them that God is true. But you also get to show them how you treat your kids.
Shalom Bayis.
And how you treat your wife.
Example. It's the living example. Shalom Bayis has a huge effect on people. And so we've had literally thousands of people in our home for Shabbos. And
living with us. We have people living with us for years. Rebbetzin Young Rice put people with us that some of whom lived. One guy lived with us for 5 years, 2 years,
and they were just part of your family.
Yeah.
Rebbetzin Young Rice said that Torah is like, for example, you sit down for the most delicious steak dinner, you eat it by yourself, it tastes good. But if you share it with others, it's so much more delicious. And she told us we have to declare the miracle. It's a Kiddush Hashem. We have to share the miracle with others, and so that's why we started writing right away. We published under her column in the Jewish Press for 6 weeks. My husband wrote an article. I'm the editor, by the way, of everything my husband writes: his articles, his books.
That's why you're here.
And and then of course through the books, it gives people hope. No matter where you start from, it's never too late. We totally changed our lives at the ages of 30 and 31 after having 2 children, being married 11 years. We completely changed our lives from zero, not even Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, to Shomer Shabbos and having a beautiful Torah life. It's never too late for anyone to make an important change in life.
Did you find that you had to keep on continuously reassessing your goals together? You said that it's about having a common goal, but did those goals change at any time and you had to reassess and come back together, or the goal was there? We always
were on the same page, on the same. We felt the same way about everything. It's such a bracha. It's really amazing.
It's true.
I think that's such an important thing. It's
amazing.
I'm still a young man. I could still become from. So I just see that it's difficult to make big changes once you have a family.
Yeah,
you have a wife, and you've established your routine, you've established your habits, and now just to change all of that and to be able to be a symbol of that you can do that can be done.
Our daughters, I just want to say, our daughters are 5 and 3 when we totally changed our lives. We moved from upstate New York to Rabbi and Rebbetzin Young Rice's community to learn how to live a Jewish life. And so it was early enough that they could right away start in Beis Yaakov and have a Jewish education. By the way, the 3-year-old became Rebbetzin Young Rice's daughter-in-law. Our daughter's married to Rebbetzin Young Rice's son. And that's a nice thing for people, a very encouraging thing for people too. When people are Balei Tshuva, they think they can never be accepted in the from birth world. But that's also very, possible and happens in many cases. you change your life in a good way, Hashem helps you go in better and better and better direction.
I want to tell you also, our children participated in our lifestyle very much. In other words, when we had guests for Shabbos, it's a beautiful thing. They gave up their bedrooms. They taught them to natilas yadayim, to wash their hands, to say Shema. They would sit next to them in shul and show them how to daven, and it's a beautiful chinuch for the children, and it's also a beautiful thing for the guests. Sometimes they might feel awkward, but when a little kid, teaches you how to pray, there's no embarrassment.
Exactly.
It's natural, and people loved coming to our home. They loved it, and you didn't have to say anything. It just was, as you said, it just seeps in, and people who didn't know, there are many people. There's a guy in Yerushalayim now who has a beard down to his, tummy. He came to our house for Shabbos. He didn't know what tzitzis were. He expected to come Friday night
Just for dinner.
For dinner and go home. And today, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. But the kids made everybody feel at home, and then they became natural care of people.
And have your children continue.
And they have guests in their home for Shabbos. They're all married, thank God.
And you felt that you were able to do this even living in a highly religious neighborhood in
well,
Europe.
we lived in North Woodmere, which there were a lot of people who were more toward conservative.
But that's not the point, Leah.
Highly
the
religious.
guests were from Hanani.
I see.
Right,
I
right.
see. They
No,
were
but
coming
we had a lot of guests from the
Okay,
community
but
also.
the main
Just
thing
for
was
Sudas, yeah.
when we would go to Rebbe's and Young Rice's programs in Manhattan.
We went every week.
Every
to our
week,
classes for many
sometimes
years.
twice a week. And my wife would get up at the end of the program, and there'd be 1,000 people there, and she would get up. And this is when Rebbe Young Rice had the biggest Torah class in the world at that time. There were 1,000, 1,200 people at KJ in Manhattan. She would get up at the end of the class, invite people for Shabbos. First of all, people were shocked, like, what? She doesn't even know who she's talking to.
I never met them.
She's inviting me for Shabbos. What? And
she was inviting to your house?
Yeah, for Shabbos.
No, my wife was inviting.
I was inviting.
She herself.
I would get up at the end of the Rebbe and Yarmish's class, and then I'd say, if anyone would like to come for Shabbos, please come see us. And people just fainted. I mean, they couldn't believe it. And we had, of course, hundreds and hundreds of people that way for Shabbos. And so many people, Baruch Hashem, changed their lives.
It's about breaking the barriers. We can't believe that somebody would just have us in our home.
Yeah.
In their home.
Shocked. People were shocked.
Trust me? Of course we trust you. You're my brother. You're my friend.
Right.
Come.
Right.
People
One
said to us,
mishpacha,
aren't you
one
afraid
family.
to have that person in your house? And, it's like, no, exactly the opposite. Having them in the house just elevated the whole, you felt you had protection. Shalom Aleichem, Malach El Shalom, the Malachim were there, the angels are there. What are you worried about? No, nothing to worry about. The Shabbos angels are there. Everything is fine.
May I just say that Rebbetzin Young Rice told us, as I said, to declare the miracle, we have to write. And she also we started speaking, especially when the first book came out, Central Park to Sinai, at the end of the year 2000. Torah Masorah sent us on a speaking tour, and that's how our speaking started. We both would speak and tell our story. But then, as all the other books came out, my husband's the author of 5 books. We would speak about all these different books as well. Should I tell you now what the books are?
Yeah, let's go into. I would love to
Okay.
understand more the books and the process.
Sure. The books
Neuberger said that there was.
Okay.
Every book has its own story.
Okay. Story, so
Well, we
everyone.
didn't actually bring all the
We can
books.
get
but
through what we
there
can.
are 5, but
Okay.
you can hold
Central
them.
Park.
As
Let me
you,
just take Central Park first. From Central Park to Sinai: How I Found My Jewish Soul.
I think that's the
is-
camera over
but
there, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
captures.
Leah. No, there.
Where is it?
To your left.
Yeah, that's good. It's perfect.
Okay.
It
From
sees the
Central
whole.
Park to Sinai: How I Found My Jewish Soul is our personal story and stories about Rebbetzin Youngreis and her family. Some stories that were really not published anywhere else about her background and her family. My husband interviewed her brother,
Until Rabbi Seltzer wrote his
Yaakov
book on her,
Youngreis.
nobody knew these stories about her family.
Some of them were in her books, but anyway, there's stories in here that were not anywhere else. And so that's the first book. And the second book, I don't think you brought.
I don't.
Worldstorm.
I
The
have a
second book
business
is-
card I could hold on.
It doesn't matter.
That's
The
okay.
second book is called Worldstorm: Finding Meaning and Direction Amidst Today's World Crisis. It's looking into the Torah to understand the spiritual history of the world. How's that for a topic? A big one, right? My husband has original insights and theories that he divides the world history into 1,000-year periods and compares each 1,000 years to
Don't go into
one
too
day
much
of creation.
detail.
But
There's so
anyway,
much
it's a
to
very
discuss.
interesting book. If you like to think, it's great. It's a real thinking book. And then the third book is a novel called 2020 Vision, and it takes place in the year 2020. It's based on Yecheskel Navi, on the Malbim on Yecheskel Navi, and it's a terror attack on the U.S. bigger than 9/11, a group of Jews trying to survive and find their way to Israel. A very exciting story and full of Torah thoughts and inspiring Torah ideas.
And ends with
And-
Mashiach.
And
My wife always
as
gets
a-
angry at me, but we gotta.
don't tell,
Don't
don't
spoil us.
don't
Spoil
spoil
us.
the end.
Everybody knows everything, and I mean, sure,
But
it's realistic.
it's
It's realistic. It's
of
not a
course,
comic book.
the way my husband writes books is that he gets up at 4:00 in the morning and he writes till 7:30 when he goes to shul, and then he puts it on my desk. And as the first editor, I mark it up and make comments and give it back to him every day for about a year, and then the process starts over again when he has a publisher, and then there's all the proofreading and checking, and we're always working together. So we had been working together on 2020 Vision, trying to think of a title. It was so hard. We thought of this and that, and nothing was good, nothing good. And then one morning I woke up, and Hashem just gave it to me. He said, I said to my husband, the book is going to be called 2020 Vision, takes place in the year 2020. And that was it. You know, it has so many meanings, because vision as in Nevuah, prophecy, and 2020 vision is perfect, clear vision, and of course the year 2020. So, Baruch Hashem, that worked out well. And then the fourth book is a selected articles. My husband wrote every week for the Yated Naaman newspaper, and a column, and each one was connected to that week's parsha, or the Yontif, and so our daughter selected from, he wrote for them for like 12, 13 years. She selected the best from each year and put it together as called Working Toward Meshiach. It's the selected articles from that. And then, ta-da, the new book called Hold On, Surviving the Days Before Mashiach is based on a quotation from the Chafetz Chaim that there's going to be a chevel, a rope stretched across the world, and it's
In
going
the
to
days
shake
before Mashiach.
in the days before Mashiach, and Hashem will shake it. It will shake violently, and those who hold on tight to Hashem, onto the rope, will survive. And
That's why it's called
that's why
Chevlei
it's,
Mashiach,
and that's why it's a
the
rope
birth pangs
on
of
the front.
Mashiach.
And this is published by Mosaic Press.
And in
Each book
Hebrew.
is published by a different publisher.
But
so-
which picture do you think depicts
So it's
the,
also in Ivrit. Some of the books are in Hebrew, and there are some of the books are translated into other languages also, like French and Spanish.
those you
yeah,
didn't
so
read?
that's-
Russian,
Those
and
you for sure
Russian.
didn't read.
huh?
Those you didn't read.
For sure.
So that's in a nutshell what the books are.
That's fascinating. And then, well, so just to break down that for a second, why do you write in the morning? Why is the morning the best time?
The morning is my best time. Sorry. The morning is my best time. I get tired at night. I wake up in the morning very early. That nothing's going on. the phone is not ringing. Your mind is clear. Get a cup of coffee. I sit down, and I start writing. And your mind is fresh and clear, and that's when things just flow the best. I just love it. To this day, I do it. That's when I do all my writing. I can sometimes edit later in the day, but I really, in general, cannot write later than in the day.
If you're a morning person, it works.
Yeah,
Some
right.
people are the
Right,
opposite and they
right,
work at night.
Right.
Well, he writes in the morning, then you edit at night.
That's right. It's not a joke. That is right. But it's just a beautiful time of day for me. And I feel very fresh and unburdened. By the end of the day, you could have so many thoughts going through my mind. Oh, I didn't take care of that. I have to make this phone call. I have to this. In the morning, the slate is clean.
I feel the same way. Mornings are always better for me, and the morning half of the day, I guess. And I feel also that when you understand like that, we compare Lila, right, nighttime to bleak times in Jewish history and to
Sure.
and to the Gullah. So it's almost
true.
just the natural. After a
Sure.
full day
It's
and
true,
after so
too.
much time, you get to night, and
Right.
night is stress and a whole day,
Right.
and there's bedtime.
Right.
There's a lot of
That's when David HaMelech was up writing Tehillim, right?
In the middle of
And
the night.
learning Torah. He was up during the night. He awoke the dawn. That's what it
So-
says about David HaMelech.
right. Well, Boca Arena in the morning.
Yeah.
I find that for myself is that you can go to sleep at night sad. Boca Arena.
100%.
For Erev Yom Bechi, you go to sleep crying, you wake up, and just the process every day, and then bigger years you have that, and then just Jewish history in general, you have that where you have the downs and the ups, and it's when it's morning, it's exciting, and that's
Yeah.
a lot of the
Mamash.
message of looking towards Mashiach, towards that time.
Mamash.
So what's the story with the publishing of this book, of the newest book?
Okay,
Hold on.
So I have no secrets in this world, meaning I'm not embarrassed to say all the bumps my whole life is bumps and unbumps and
Everyone has bumps in life.
but I think it's a Kiddush Hashem to talk about it, and that Hashem helps you when you hit a bump, because who does not hit a bump, and many bumps. And so the latest book, Hold On, Surviving the Days Before Mashiach, is, I like to be very emistic, truthful. And I think that a lot of times, sometimes it's hard to tell the truth. This is a book about what I really think is happening in the world. And a lot of the things I say in Hold On are things that it's a little tough for people to, I'll give you an example later, Bezos Hashem, a little tough for people to hear. As a result of this, various publishers were reluctant to publish this book, because they thought people are not going to buy it because it's a little bit of it's a very straight book. And sometimes people don't like straight. So I was turned down, I'm not going to go into details, by 4 publishers, which is also not the first time this happened to me. My most popular books were all turned down many times. Central Park to Sinai, which was, I'm just saying it just happens to be the truth, it was the #1 Jewish bestseller for about 4 or 5 months during the spring of 2001. It took me a year to find a publisher. I was turned down left, right, up, down. You can't imagine. And one so-called expert told me, basically, this is a piece of garbage, start all over again. And really. And finally, I give credit to the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Chiel Per, Rosh Yeshiva, Yeshiva Far Rockaway. He told me, go to Jonathan David Publishers. Who? Jonathan David Publishers. Who are they? Look them up in the phone book and just go there. They'll publish it. And they did. And this is really a fabulous, beautiful story. I could tell in itself. Maybe I will if we have time. But it's amazing. The same thing happened with 2020 Vision, which was also very difficult to get published. But hold on.
That was Feldheim. Every book's a different publisher.
Right.
5 different publishers. So,
and did you ever feel like you wanted to change your content to be able to fit the publisher, or you were
no
never
way.
going to?
No. This is it. I write the book, and, Hashem should help me. I'm going to get it published somehow. And Baruch Hashem, it always happened. So I was, kind of at the end of my rope, speaking about ropes, with hold on. And I happened to go to see someone whom we know, a very famous, beloved Rabbi Eitan Feiner in Far Rockaway. We were very close with his grandparents in Seattle, Washington, Joe and Adina Russick, amazing people. And Rabbi Feiner said, go to Mosaic Press. And the same thing happened, like, who? Mosaic Press. And Mosaic Press published the book. They're wonderful people. They're really basically located in it's technically an American firm, but publisher, but they're really, all the people are in Ramat Beit Shemesh in Israel. I'm going to tell you quickly the amazing story of how I found out they were going to publish it. This is just typical of what kind of thing happened. About 2 years ago at this time of year, our daughter, whose name is Yafa Rebbitzin, Yafa Youngrice, wanted to go to various kfarim, to graves of Youngrice family tzaddikim in Europe. And she had one day, and she was going to go by herself to Europe. And we told her, Yafa, you're not going alone. We're going with you. Oh, okay, Abanim. So we all got on a plane, Austrian Airlines. We flew to Vienna. This is 2 years ago. Flew to Vienna. We were met by a car. We hired a religious guy who specializes in driving to different kvarim, to different tzaddik, graves of tzaddikim, holy people. And we just left. 9 o'clock we landed and straight out.
It was all mapped out? Or
yeah, we had a whole route. And the second place we stopped was in Pressburg, not really a Youngrice family a member, but it was the Chassam Sofer. And I don't know if your listeners, viewers have been there. This is an amazing, amazing place because the Nazis, Yamak Shemam, wanted to pave over, bulldoze the whole cemetery. And I believe it was Rav Weissmandel Zatzal who bribed the Nazis to save the gravesite of the Chassam Sofer. And it's what they did is they actually sort of did pave it over, but they put a street over the grave. It's in really basically a cave under the street. You can hear the trolley cars going over on top. To this, I picture the trolley cars going, and the grave is under the street now. But you can go. It's still there. We davened by the grave of the Chassam Sofer, by the kever, and then we left, and we went on to the next tzaddik. 15 minutes after we left the Chassam Sofer, we're in the car in Slovakia somewhere, Eastern Europe, and I get an email on my phone from Rabbi Doron Kornbluth at the Mosaic Press. Dear Mr. Neuberger, maybe he made the common mistake of saying Rabbi Neuberger. I don't know, but whatever. Dear Mr. Neuberger, we think your book is very important, and we want to publish it. This was 15 minutes after leaving the Chassam Sofer. The driver of the car, started yelling, I was very happy. And the driver of the car, he couldn't believe it. He was just like, whoa, the brachas already began for the Chassam Sofer. He couldn't believe it. It's amazing. Whoa, amazing, amazing. So that's how we found out that Mosaic Press decided to publish this book. And look at they designed such a beautiful cover. This is the rope that the Chafetz Chaim, this Tochevle Mashiach, the rope that we have to hang on to in the days of the coming of Mashiach, because we've got to hang on to the Torah to survive. So that's how we found out that Mosaic Press was going to publish Hold On.
That's fascinating. That's amazing. Also, they took do you think they got pushback for publishing it and for your?
No, they're courageous people. They're people of I'm not going to say integrity. All the publishers have people of integrity, but they are courageous in the sense that they publish what they believe in, and it doesn't have to be so much with regard to how many copies is it going to sell or people are going to buy it. And they do what they think is right, and it's a beautiful, courageous thing.
What were things in the book that you felt, or that publishers thought that maybe wouldn't be?
Okay, so I think this is a good opportunity to talk about this a little, and this is what I really meant by tough things. I think that I have a very strong feeling about what's going on in the world at this time, and I don't think, I'm sure it's accurate. I really believe it's accurate, and I can bring certain what I believe are proofs, and they're not easy to hear. I'm going to start. We just finished Pesach. We're talking, I don't know when this broadcast will be released. Soon. But we're in Sphira right now. We just finished Pesach. And this is relevant. I'm not digressing, but I think it's important. Why is Pesach? First of all, Pesach is the first holiday in the cycle of Yomim Tovim. Pesach is mentioned, the Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Exodus is mentioned every day in our tefillas, constantly throughout the Torah. Why does the Torah mention Pesach constantly? Shema, every day, twice a day we refer to Yetzias Mitzrayim. Hashem took us out of Egypt. Because this is the prototype Golus, exile. The Chafetz Chaim said that we can learn about the details of the Geula Shalema, the final redemption, by studying what happened at the end of our exile in Egypt. So what happened in Mitzrayim is the prototype for the events which are going to take place before Meshiach. And, we have a saying that Masi Avos Simin Labanim, what happened to our forefathers is a sign for the children. The whole Torah is telling us not just the past, present, but the future, everything. So what happened in Mitzrayim? Basically, this is the story that the way I want to bring it out. Mitzrayim was the premier culture in the world at that time, the strongest. It was the chief. Thank you. The chief culture. Yes, I could use some. That's beautiful. In the world, nobody could get out. We were slaves in Egypt, and Egypt collapsed. Thank you. How do you know I like bubbles?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Seltzer is a very Jewish drink because Jews are always bubbling upward, So that's, I think there's a reason.
It's like the fire.
That's it. So Egypt was destroyed.
I poured you some.
This quote unquote invincible culture was destroyed. Why was it destroyed? Because we, the Jewish people, were enslaved in this culture, not just physically, but culturally. We had the gullus mentality. We got wrapped up in this idolatry, this alien witchcraft of Egypt, and we were basically unable to get out. We reached the 49th level of impurity of Tumah, Memtesh Shari Tumah, and we were basically unable to get out. But we had to get out because we were created to accept the Torah. And we couldn't have accepted the Torah if we were imprisoned in Egypt and if we were imprisoned in the Egyptian mentality. So Mitzrayim had to be destroyed in order for the Jews to go to Har Sinai, to Mount Sinai, and accept the Torah. It had to happen. Hashem needed to bring his people to Har Sinai to accept the Torah. Otherwise, the world wouldn't have continued to exist. And we wouldn't have, Chas v'sholom, continued to exist. As it is, Rashi tells us, only 1/5 of the Jews left Egypt. 4/5 couldn't get out of Gullus. There are other Mefarshim, other commentators who say only 1 in 5,000. There's a medrash from Narai says only 1 in 5,000 left. It's incredible to contemplate. 1 in 5 is big enough number. I mean, it's a Holocaust. 4/5 of Am Yisrael perished in the Mak of Choshech, of plague of darkness. Only and those that 1/5 already gave Moshe Rabbeinu so much trouble in the Midbar and gave Hashem so much trouble. But Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, Yad Chazaka, with a strong hand, and he pulled us out so we could accept the Torah. Now, if this is the paradigm for Gula Shalem, the coming of Mashiach, what does it mean? Today, we see a world that's falling apart. World culture is falling apart. World culture. This is not Lahavdil Torah. The Torah never falls apart. The Torah is eternal. But the culture of the world is falling apart. And I'll be very specific. I mean, first of all, look at the U.S. I mean, we came from the U.S. We grew up there. I'm going to say straight out, the U.S. is falling apart. It's falling apart. Already...
Maybe you should get closer to the mic. I don't hear you much. It's
You don't
okay.
hear so well?
It's all right.
Okay.
Oh, now it's good.
Okay.
That's better.
And the U.S. represents the whole culture of Edom, Esav, the whole Western world, the whole Church of Rome and everything associated with that whole culture, materialism that came from Esav originally. And, excuse me. And
so it's the culture in the U.S. that's falling apart.
I'll explain. First of all, we've seen over the last 2 years a tremendous amount of controversy that's becoming more and more extreme. Anger, division in especially, say, American society. Sure. Tremendous division. The last election made this very, very clear. Bitter division, civil unrest, and
Violence.
And violence, and the dialogue that was once more civil between opposing political views is not civil anymore. And at times, it appears, and I believe it's the possibility of real anarchy and even civil war is not impossible to a person a reasonable person looking at what's going on, it's not impossible. But I can be much more specific, and I think I should be specific. And these are the kind of things the book talks about, which are not easy for people to listen to. But I think many people want very much to hear this, because people feel this themselves. There's something very specific I want to talk about, and that's morality. Laws have been passed, not just now, it's increasing very much, but over the last years and decades, which question the basic moral structure of the way the world is created. Hashem created a world where the first mitzvah is Peru Uruvu. The world started with Adam and Eve. It started with a marriage. It started with husband and wife. That's how there's a family. That's how there's life. All our commentators tell you a family means life. The world's going to be populated. Hashem created the world for marriage. The whole institution of marriage is under extreme pressure. And the current political climate in the United States exemplifies that, in which laws are being passed which make marriage optional is already a good word. That other alternative lifestyles are supposedly equivalent to marriage or even superior to marriage. I want to bring out to all of us the very stark truth that at the time of the Mabul, our commentators tell us the flood in the days of Noah, that one of the prime causes of the flood was the reason that Hashem destroyed the world was because the institution of marriage was brought into question, that morality was corrupted by mankind in general, that the very basis on which Hashem created the world was rebelled against. And for this reason, Hashem, this is so basic that apparently in the eyes of Hashem, it was a basis for the actual destruction of the world during the time of the Mabul, the flood. And the only one who survived it was the family of Noah, who were loyal to Hashem. And I want to say that I think this is one of the indications we're living in a very, very dangerous moment. Because a civilization, a culture that rebels to this extent against the Torah of Hashem is endangering itself, period. I mean, I don't see how, it's just a very stark reality. And this is why I draw the comparison to Mitzrayim, to ancient Egypt. Now, there is a beautiful metaphor. I'm not sure if it's mine or I saw it somewhere. It's very similar to a comment by the Be'er Miriam that I saw in the art scroll, in one of the art scroll Haggadahs. And it's a very beautiful thing, which I think is quite relevant to our discussion. It's a universal custom, I believe, during the Pesach Seder, that when we come to the part of the Seder where we mention the 10 makos, we dip our finger into the wine and take out a drop of wine from the wine cup, the kos,
Onto the plate, right?
and put it on the plate 10 times for each of the 10 makos. If you look at your plate and you look at your kos, you will see the kos is just as full. It doesn't look like you took a thing out of the kos. You have 10 little spots of red on your plate, and you have, right? Again, I'm not sure if it's me or the Be'er Mirror, where I got it from exactly, or bottom line. This is a metaphor, an indication of the difference between Yetzias Mitzrayim and the Geula Shalema, meaning those 10 drops you took out are equivalent to our exodus from Egypt. What the wine that's left in the kos is equivalent to the final redemption, the Geula Shalema, meaning the order of magnitude. That is how much bigger the Geula Shalema is going to be. Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim was the greatest event up to, I guess, since Bereshis, since who is one of the greatest events, colossal in history. The whole world knew about it. The Jews were taken out of slavery in Egypt. When Mashiach comes, instead of one country, Egypt, it's going to be the whole world. And the Jews will be taken out of our slavery to the culture, worldwide non-Jewish culture. And that event will be so huge that compared to Yetzias Mitzrayim, it's like these few drops compared to all that wine that remains in the kos. And in Mitzrayim, there was one king who fell, Paro. When Meshiach comes, hundreds, thousands of kings, presidents, prime minister, whoever they are, dictators, everyone will fall. And Torah, Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah, Udvar Hashem Yerushalayim, the capital of the world will become Yerushalayim. Mashiach will be the king, and there'll be a different world. I think the reason there's so much resistance to the coming of Mashiach, the world is fighting it. You see it when the world fights Am Yisrael, which all the world really does. They all fight against us ever since the days of Avram Avinu, our father Abraham. It's because there is a tremendous push against the coming of Mashiach. Why? Because when Mashiach comes, that means Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad, that Hashem will be recognized as the ruler of the world. And that means Torah. You can't just live the way you want anymore. You can't murder, theft, and all the violence, all the things that go on today and that are condoned in the world today. It's not going to be like that anymore. When the era of Mashiach, the world's going to be a different world, and when the world is run from Yerushalayim, from the Beis Hamikdash, the Goyim, the world at large, does not want this, because the world at large right now is run by, people. What it says in the Shema, that going achrei necha, achrei levavchem, achrei necha, after our heart and eyes, whatever you want, grab it, money, food, whatever your desires, your lusts. That's what the way the world is going now. It won't be like that in the days of Mashiach, and the world is fighting that with all its strength. This is what we're seeing today, but this is what Hold On talks about. And I think we have to recognize that we're living in a dangerous world. We're living in a world where the culture, the non-Jewish culture, which is so powerful, is crumbling before our eyes. We're seeing a similar phenomenon to what happened in Mitzrayim. The world of Mashiach is going to be beyond beautiful, but if we want to survive, we have to hold on. That's why that's the title. Right. Hold on. What? To Torah. That's it. This is not a theory. It's not a nice thing to do. This is survival. This is life. If we don't hold on, chas v'shalom, God forbid, I don't know what's going to happen. This is serious stuff. So in a nutshell, that's really the answer. And to your question about what's the essence of this book, and I think that that's why various publishers were not so happy to publish it. But kol hakavod to Mosaic Press, who had the courage to, publish things which are not always so easy to hear.
I'd like to point out also, hold on, a reason that it's gotten very, very wonderful reception. We have heard from so many people that it gives them so much chizuk and inspiration. It's not just this message of, look at what's happening in the world. It's a really serious situation. It's a message of what we can do in order to strengthen ourselves and our loved ones and be able to hold on and get through it and live to see these wonderful, beautiful days of Mashiach. That my husband goes into it in great detail of, for example, davening, the tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah, Torah, mitzvahs, maasim tovim. This is all there is. This is what we hold on to. And he goes into great detail explaining how do we do this.
Shemona Esrei.
Yes. He has a whole chapter on the Shemona Esrei and what thoughts would be very helpful to have for each of the brachas, to understand them and to have better kavanah. And there's a very well-known Rebbitzin who actually called us, and actually we got calls from many people, and I've made actually quite a few Rebbitzins who said that their davening has improved from this, and that they really had been thinking about how can I improve my davening and really understand Shemona Esrei better and have it more meaningful. And they said it just gave them so much chizuk and inspiration. We've heard this from really scholarly people. Now, my husband, of course, never went to yeshiva, but ever since the age of 31, he's been studying and learning with all kinds of so many wonderful chavrusas. It started out with the Youngreis family. The son-in-law, Rabbi Shlomo Gertzlin, was his first chavrusa. That was in 1974. And in the years since, he's had so many wonderful chavrusas, and he still has. So he's a person who feels deeply. My husband is a person who feels deeply and thinks deeply. And so he really gets to such fascinating and relevant insights about all the Torah studies and the Torah topics and all the topics he discusses. So many people have gotten so much chizuk and inspiration from this book because he's very practical about what can we do in order to hold on and survive and be able to have such a beautiful, wonderful life. And I want to give one more example of someone who told us that this person had to go for a biopsy and was extremely nervous about it. And what did he do? He took this book with him and he held on to this book for the whole biopsy. So we see
and he got a good report, by the way.
He did get a good report. He did. He got a wonderful report. But people are really, holding on to Torah, holding on to this book and seeing that this book is helping them so much. And this is what our life is all about, that we want to reach out to people, help people, and have people have more chizuk, more inspiration. So whether it's our personal story or whether it's the books that give insights on so many topics, that's what we're here for.
I just want to add, by the way, that I have 14 haskamas on this book because, who am I? So I got a lot of very eminent rabbanim to give haskamas.
They really read it.
So did you feel that it was more, like people accepted it more because there were haskamas that it helped?
I think so. I now think I can think of many more people, many more rabbanim I really should have asked. But okay,
how many haskamas can people read anyway?
Okay, but people are interested. I think people are interested in.
I look for the books without haskamas.
You do, okay. Okay. Anyway, but I personally feel I need the haskamas because I'm serious. Like, people could legitimately say, "Who is this guy?" So I want to have eminent rabbis endorsing it.
Okay, so I guess we'll end with this, but Okay, thank you so much for joining us, and
Our pleasure.
I hope this message brings chizuk to people and practical. You could read the book of Hold On and get practical suggestions of how to hold on and how to stay strong.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Really, really a pleasure.
I mean, if you have anything else, we can continue, but I don't want to take. I can go all day.
We could spend hours, but I think we'll do
I think
another
it's good.
show maybe.
We could do part 2.
We can do part 2.
So may I just say that the books are all available. Feldheim Publishers distributes all my husband's books, and Mosaic Press also distributes in the United States. You can go online for these things. The Hold On book.
Website.
And we have a website that I think people would find extremely interesting.
What is it? What is the website?
It's called 2020vision.co.il. That's 2020vision.co.il. And it has a lot on it. My husband has a weekly video where he talks about something that's relevant to the Pasha. It's just a 10-minute video every week. Through the website, people could get it. And also they could sign up for emails and get it as an email. You sign up through the website. And it tells, there's a lot on there. There are all these videos, like from different speaking trips. I don't think we mentioned this, that ever since the books first came out, we've spoken in many different countries from the first book tour, and then we're invited by different organizations to speak in the former Soviet Union, for example, in Mexico and Canada and the United
15
States.
countries.
Yeah, Eastern Europe and all over, so many places. From Baku, we spoke in Tbilisi, in Georgia, and the book is actually translated into Georgian. The chief rabbi loved the book so much, the Central Park to Sinai in 2020, that he translated them into Georgian.
That's not the state of Georgia.
No.
The Republic of Georgia.
Well, whether it was Vienna or Moscow, or there's an amazing video that shows a lot about our tour in Moscow. It's called The Spiritual Journey Through the Former Soviet Union. It's a video that I think people would enjoy.
On the website.
And on the website, there's all these videos and pictures and different things. So that's the story.
Terrific.
Thank you so much. Really, we've enjoyed so much being with you.
Our pleasure.
It's such a stress. Okay.